effort to start at 9, because if we don't, we will miss things and we won't get where we're going. I know on Saturday, we were roaming around, and yesterday as well, we were having a broad discussion, and it was going backwards and forwards, and it was more kind of a brainstorming and a questioning of where we are, what is it that we are really trying to do, and that was good, so that people raised their questions and hear them and so on. So we were not as structured as I'm sure some people would wish us to be. We were trying to cover a broad ground. And of course, like happens in these workshops, people were trying to get all the answers right away, which is intended for the whole week's work. As such, we could not answer all your questions. I know, for example, our colleague asked yesterday a question of Ismailia. Yeah, if I say it correctly. But we will talk more about all these practical examples of your project that we could not go into detail yesterday or Saturday and make sure that we get it all. So I want, if you don't mind, for us together to make sure that we all agree very clearly what is it that we are trying to achieve now that we have had the brainstorming on Saturday and Sunday over these next few days, namely Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 4 days. What is it that we hope to achieve in these 4 days? And then what is it that we plan to do after these 4 days? So I want us all to be very clear about these things and to do it together. It's not my objective, this has to be our objective. That's very important. So that if you want to change any of these, we will do that. And then once we have agreed on it, we will work towards it. Is that okay? I better pause and make sure that you're comfortable with that approach. All right, so to start the discussion then, I'm suggesting, like we did earlier, that what are we expecting to get by Thursday? And 3 key things. And those are the outputs. And what I'm going to, the way we will run this thing, the process, if you wish, is that at the end of every session, that is to say, morning session up to lunchtime, we will document what we have talked about, and what we achieved. We will document that, and we will get it typed up. And Dr. Hannah Buhari is, as I understand it, the key person responsible for that, but she will get help by 2 other local consultants we have. For 2 days, Dr. Khalid will be here with us, I think, today and tomorrow. Dr. Tariq will be here today and tomorrow, and he will help Dr. Hannah, who will work with you to get that output. And then the other 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, Dr. Khalid, or both of them?
Khalid will be here on Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay. So that's the support people that we have. But Dr. Hannah, it's clear then that you will take the lead responsibility to make sure that you get the input, and it will go to Amani and to Nadil, and they will produce it. So the morning's work you will get in the afternoon, all typed up. We need to work in a very rigorous way if we will get somewhere. Rigorous does not mean rigid. We will remain flexible and we will remain interactive, but at the same time we will have an amount of structure so that we are all comfortable that we are moving somewhere and not just in this wonderful institution called clumsy community. So we'll have that mixture of unstructuredness and free-flowing and yet structure to get somewhere, because it's not either or. So, if that's the process, then let's see if we can agree on these goals. I'm suggesting for discussion that these 3 things are possible things that we might consider. One is that people here will develop, if you don't have it already, that is, increase or strengthen skills and capacity to use the SLA as GOPP mainly. I am aware that we have a few NGOs with us as well, but the main purpose of this program, as you know, is aimed at GOPP. It is at their invitation that this was organized. So we should put others as well who are with us. I hope you don't mind being called honors, and the only reason I'm saying this is because GOPP is the principal first people who have invited us, and I know that UNDP and GOPP then agreed that we should have other colleagues who will be using this with SFP and so on. So it is important that you take charge. If we agree that this is one of the outcomes, that you take charge of the activities we carry out to make sure that this is happening. You need to be watchful constantly that we are achieving it. So that's one possibility. The other one is the tools to do the job. That is to say, the manual, the guidelines, any other things that you think you require, because at the end of the week, you must be able to do the sustainable livelihoods approach within the planning process. We will, of course, have to discuss by that time. We hope that you will raise what are the institutional difficulties you will face. We talked on the first day and yesterday with the head of GOPP, and he is fully sensitized to the fact that merely to give people the skills or to discuss what kinds of new skills and tools is not enough to make you do the job. Because if you have to do everything you used to do before and you are overloaded, what's the point of all of this? So we will be talking about what kinds of incentives are necessary and indeed disincentives for this to proceed. Otherwise, GOPP will not achieve its objective of using the SLA. Okay, so the other one is the tool. The main tool that we are talking about is some kind of a guidebook based on the draft manual you now have, which I understand that you have now had the time to read because you got it on whichever day before Friday. But yesterday, Dr. Hannah Buhari advised me that you were asked to at least go through that full manual and you will have now questions and so on. So maybe we should pause and find out who has not read the draft manual. Did you have it? Or you didn't have time, or you don't have the manual?
No, I didn't have time.
You didn't have time, okay. You do not have the manual. Do we have a draft? A copy of the manual? Or colleague here? Anybody else did not have the manual yet? The draft? You know what we're talking about, right? It's very important that you go that through. If you haven't read that, then we probably should stop and everybody should read that, because otherwise we'll have to tell you the things that are in there. There's no point telling you when it's all written up nicely in Arabic and everything already for you. That's why Hannah has been working for the last 2 months writing up this book, making it as simple as possible. Now what is in there might be wrong. I can't read it. I don't know what is in there. We are trying to get it translated now in English, but I'm only saying that because you should question it. Don't take it as the Quran or the Bible or whatever. So that's one thing you need to do. So only 2 people have not read it. 3 people, 1, 2, 3. 4, 5. We didn't read it either. So we will have to change the program, huh? Most people have not read it. Okay, so that's one thing. So what we need to do, we will look at the program that we have, and we will change the program to make sure that this thing is realistic, what that we are doing. I don't want to have a classroom thing like a teacher, hoping that the students have read. That's not what we are about. We want to work on colleagues, not teacher-student kind of operation. So if your day is too busy, and that's the reality, then we will stop. And we'll have to read it here. But we would have achieved much more if you had had time outside of here to read it. But that's fine. If you don't, you can't force the history. So that's the main tool. To supplement that tool, we will have checklists. And those checklists will be the kinds of things you need to do in addition to what is in the manual, or the things you need to change in the manual. And working together, we will be producing this. Each of the manuals we have produced in the other countries are produced by the people who are using the SLA. It is not done by us and delivering it to you. That never works. So you make it and you use it. Okay. the final outcome would be that we would have to have an action plan for follow-through. Now, I do not know who here is, for example, if anybody has responsibility from Cairo for Farafra, for example. But of course, we will also be working with the local level people. And one of the follow-up actions will be, for example, that we will have a capacity building workshop in the local areas with the local people, planners or whoever at the local level, that will implement it at that level as well. But Farafra is one area that we are starting to think of in which we will follow through. Is anybody here going to be actively involved in the Farafra use of the SLA in the demonstration, the pilot? Over here? Yes. Two of you? Okay. Now, we also have with the SFD 5 other sites that are being discussed right now, which the SFD has indicated interest in funding. These will be led by NGOs who have been working together with UNDP support to draft a proposal. I believe that that proposal has now been presented to the Social Fund for Development. They have expressed very strong interest in principle in funding it. I don't know what the total for 5 sites is, probably of the order of $500,000 or something. Do you remember? You don't follow that, right? It's of that, or no more than that. I think it's probably 5 sites by about 300,000 per site, which will lead to a piece of work for about 18 months or something like that. And it will demonstrate the use of the SLA in each of these areas, like SIVA. And you know the area. Which area are you in? Okay. And there are a few other areas being suggested as well. Yesterday, colleagues were suggesting an inner Cairo city area. Now, when you know those areas, what we would like to make sure is that the NGOs are not working as NGOs and GOPP are working as GOPP, but there is a partnership and that we are learning together. So the action plan will talk about all of those things. What sites, what locations, what will be done over what period of time, how you can become involved in the work. Now, I would pause and probably ask you, what of these we should keep? Are these things the kind of goals and objectives we want to use, or would you like to change any of these, drop any, or add any to these? If these 3 are acceptable, do we add any, or are they not? So let's pause and ask you. Are these okay, or are these the goals we want to achieve together? Yeah, we want to do it in a parliamentary manner. Is there any other goal or objective you would like to achieve during this week? Or we can come back to those. I can go through again and suggest what do these mean in terms of what we will do to achieve them, and then come back. But before that, let me find out, is there anybody here in this room who has a keen interest in understanding the sustainable livelihood approach? That I need to find out. Could you just show me your hand? You do? Okay. I'll tell you why I asked that. Because sometimes in courses and in discussions that we have with government people, they go because they have been told to go. And really they are just hoping that this thing will be finished, you know, and that they can get on with their work. And if that's the case, we need to know that. You might still have to stay here, but at least we need to know that you know that you are here because you are interested and not because you have been asked to come. But if that's the case, then we have a different scenario. You have been asked to come, huh?
No.
Okay, so I'm joking.
I am also like to maybe like to add here a function within the other district, so we can avoid chaos.
Oh, you need to hold on. You need to get this mic so others can hear and John can understand what you're saying. Oh no, you're speaking in English now. So.
Maybe I'd like to add here the advantage of using this concept
right.
in other situations.
Okay, that will come as one of the exercises rather than the goals. So when I go through, well, why don't I go through what I propose as the steps we will take to achieve these goals, and then come back to the goals to see whether we want to change anything. Okay, for now, if you agree, we will take these as possible goals, that we are all going to work towards these. That at the end of the week, you will have strengthened skills to use the SL approach, that you will have some tools that you will have in your hands that you can use and which will continue to be changed. It's important to note what we have said here, that these tools to do the job are also to be tested and refined by you. They will not be perfect. In our understanding of the work we have done over 7 years, our projection is that they never can be perfect. Now I know that that's a bit disappointing, because we all would like to have perfect tools. But in this kind of work, it's always going to be learning exercise. It's not frustrating, it can be fun to continue to learn, but it's not the way we were all brought up. You know, you do your PhD or your master's or whatever you do, and you think you finished school. But in today's world, there is no finishing school. You have to continue to learn, and if you don't, then you will be left behind. But today's world is rapidly becoming a knowledge world, in which we all have to continue to learn. All right. So if we take those, what are the exercises then? What are the steps? And we will come back, having done this, and look at that plan that we have to see whether it makes any sense. You know, the draft program for the week, and change it if it doesn't make any sense. Okay, blank page. What did you do? Oh. Okay, one of the exercises, I believe, and I'm doing it very simplistically, one of the exercises that we will do today is we need to document, either together or in small groups, what do we do now at GOPP? We need to put that down so that at the end of the week, we will not have to stop and say, you know what, all of those things that you guys talked about all week, we did all of those before. What's new? So first step should be that we will document what do we do now. Maybe we will do that as an individual exercise so we know what individuals in the group are doing now. By that we mean, what do we do now? What kind of planning exercises do we engage in? And we want to get specific. For example, is your responsibility in the area of physical planning? Are you responsible for managing the process? And you hire consultants to do structure plans and you manage the consultants? Or do you actually do structure plans yourself? Do you do strategic planning? Do you make comprehensive plans? And so on. Do you plan at the local level, at the governorate level, at the national level? That kind of detail we will go through. So what kinds of planning exercises are you currently involved in? So having stated that very clearly, we want to ask, what are the objectives we are planning for? What goals do we have in mind? And by that what I mean is, are we planning for economic growth? You know, we can brainstorm around that. What are the kinds of objectives? Sometimes, I'm a little bit of a cynic, as you know. Khalid disagreed with me the first place, and that's fine, and that's how we have to do it. I'm a bit of a cynic of development planning, because I believe we carry out lots of development exercises. Without that development exercise, that planning exercise, we as planners will never see whether that goal that we have planned for is achieved. It's like when, you know, with a line assembly, when you're making a car, you're making one part of the car, you never know, in fact, whether you have really contributed when you see the big car. You hope that you have. So are we planning, for example, for growth in Egypt? That is economic growth. Is that the goal or the objective of your planning exercise? Is it for zoning? So that the country will have industries in one area, residential one area, and you know, and water in another area, and one will not run into the other, and so on. So you will have to write down what are the objectives. Are we planning, whatever you call it, are we planning for poverty reduction? Are we merely concerned with producing a plan? And that's our objective. and we are not interested anymore in where that plan is leading. That is our goal, our objective, as far as you are concerned, is producing that structure plan. For lots of, you know, your objective, your job is clearly to produce the plan. You have no control over what it is used for later on, or whether it will be effective. And we will put that down. Whatever is the level of the objective as you see it. It could be growth, it could be zoning, it could be poverty, it could be just the plan as the objective. Now, what tools and strategies are we using already? What kinds of planning tools do we have? And we would want to put that down. What kind of tools do you use? You know, planning instruments. And there will be a whole range of them. It's not possible for me to go through all of them, but whatever kinds of strategies and plans you use, whether you call it strategic planning, comprehensive planning, regional planning, physical planning, and whatever instruments are associated with it. Okay, so that's one of the exercises I've been thinking that we need to do so that we know what we have now. What are we starting with? What skills do we have now? What exercises do we do? What jobs do we do? That's one set of things. We already have talked a little bit about sustainable livelihoods approach. And what we would want you to do is to document what you think, you know, what kind of exercises, first of all, what you think the sustainable livelihood approach seeks to achieve. You have the manual, you have other literature, and we have had a discussion on Saturday. And you will put down, and we will discuss that together. We will see what kind of exercises, which is the parallel, you see, of this. What kind of exercises are utilized, what tools and strategies are used in SLA, and we have a chance to compare what tools, strategies, and so on are used here compared to what you are doing here. So we can then work together to find out, in fact, whether there is any change or not. And there might be no change. And we agree, and you know, we want to work to do this together. We don't want to invent any artificial difference between the two. If what you are doing is already consistent with this, you are achieving the objective that we all set ourselves, then we don't have anything else to do. And we will check that. Well, we will do them step at a time so that we can do pretty rigorous. So, okay, we've done that. You've done the SLA bit. We will compare the two. That is to say, we will compare GOPP and the SLA and make the linkages, the checklists, etc. We will then have, and the way I am suggesting that we might think about it is in the sustainable livelihoods approach, just to summarize for you. You know, we start with a participatory assessment of assets and adaptive strategies. We will talk a little bit about the techniques used there. John Preston talked a little bit yesterday of the assets approach, and Nadir talked about the appreciative inquiry. We can go back again and talk about these and compare what are the tools and the ways of doing this compared to what you're doing now. Yesterday there was a very interesting debate by the group that was here in which some said that they were already doing participatory planning and others said that they were not. And these were GOPP senior managers. It was a very interesting debate. And then a third person said, well, we mean different things within the GOPP when we use the word participation. Now, the only way to resolve that is when we put down exactly what we do now, and then we start comparing what we might do. And it's not an attempt to get it right. It's just an attempt to do more and more of what works, or what we believe might work, and learn from what works and what does not work. Okay. So some of the steps we will use for the comparison. The SL steps include the participatory assessment of assets and adaptive strategies. We do policy analyses, which you probably do already, and we will compare how you do your policy analysis with this. We will talk about governance issues, institutional arrangement, because policies are never made in a vacuum. Policies are made and implemented through institutions and people. We will talk about investment strategies. And one of the shifts that is emerging is that a large part of sustainable livelihood is about investing in assets for change rather than delivering of services and delivering of goods. So the planning process for the SL approach is to invest in the right places so that assets become more productive, people become more productive, people take charge of their lives. It is not planning for delivery. And it might not be one or the other. We had the discussion of what are those things that still need to be delivered by government, for example, by local government. And we'll compare it. And we will talk of technology. And finally, what we all do already, a very important step, as we all know in planning, is monitoring and evaluation. And what indicators we use. And here what we are going to talk about, some of the things would be indicators for monitoring, evaluation, and learning. We are struggling to shift to the stage in which we do monitoring and evaluation for learning rather than for ex-post judgment. That is to say, in UNDP, currently we still do, and I don't know what GOPP does, but we have in all the programs we support, we have a midterm evaluation, and then we have a terminal evaluation, tripartite evaluation, where government, UNDP, and the implementing agency will have a joint evaluation. That is an evaluation to make a judgment about performance and about achievement. Here we are talking about doing monitoring and evaluation for learning in a continuous way so that the feedback is timely. And what are the tools, what are the shifts that we can make in order to do that? We also want to talk about, in Egypt, what are the practical entry points that you are using. This I use for a shorthand for small, medium, and micro enterprises. When you support small entrepreneurs and so on. And we have programs in which we support the development of business skills for small, medium, and micro enterprises so that people can start making their living and get out of poverty or improve their livelihood. Another area in which the entry point might be through agriculture. And the typical one in agriculture is sometimes labeled as food security. Or it could be any other aspect of agriculture. In other words, we are looking at the real world, and we are looking at how planning is done now, and it might be agriculture or food security or something else related to agriculture. Or it might be tourism, because tourism is very important in Egypt, obviously. And these are, if you like, some practical economic sectors. It could be anything. I don't know what are the important things. It could be transport. It could be energy. Housing. It could be housing. That's what it could have. And so on. So that again we will talk about as we move towards the end. Okay. Coming back then. Perhaps the key series of checklists will be done against this one. In other words, we will look at the manual that you have drafted. We will look at what you are doing now, which we would have done as the very first exercise, and then we can organize our week's work according to these steps so that we are able to see what is it that you need to do differently in the area of governance. What is it that you need to do differently when you plan in your planning process in the area of investment? And the checklist will link each of these steps to the manual and to what we do. Now that's one possibility. But I'm no expert on how to organize workshops. And as you know, in the SL approach, there are no experts anyway. So let me come back now. And as a group, we want to agree how to organize our week and whether these things make sense. Yes, I'll come up with it.
I have an idea. You suggest to start the work by reviewing what GOPP is doing now.
What you do at the GOPP?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to say that GOPP does a lot of different projects
Right, but we are talking about what you as an individual, what do you do at GOPP?
As individuals?
Yeah. Because if we don't get that, then we won't know how your skills, what are you using as your skills that we need to address. Because we could never document what the whole of GOPP does, I know that. I don't think it's possible, is it? I don't know. But anyway, you make your point anyhow. I'm sorry I disturbed you. I don't know. Go back.
All individuals GOPP or anything GOPP.
لا for you is the market.
Also, they are not representatives of all departments in GOPP.
Right, and we don't want to do that.
So we may miss something.
We'll miss a lot.
Yeah.
But we want to give you skills when you leave, for you to be able to do this. You can't do the whole of GOPP without the whole of GOPP being present. So all I'm saying here is, when I say what do we, I'm talking about you. But let's examine that, because I know we could never do the whole of GOPP. It's too big, it's too complicated. But if you look at what you do at GOPP, and you as the first batch, my understanding of this whole process is that you are the first group of people, for good or bad reasons, whatever, they decided who should come to the first group of this discussion. And then we will have other groups from GOPP over time. Or it might be you who will work with the other groups at GOPP. But we want to start with you as individuals rather than the whole, this strange monster called GOPP that none of us individually really understand or know. Yeah? So that's what I was proposing. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Any other comments on that? Yes, sir.
So just to think, your comparison between how we now work at GOPP and how we might work in the future, if you just thought constantly about two columns, right? Two lists next to each other. One, the way we do it now, and then the way it might change. And some of those will be the same things in each column, and others will be different. And just so one of the products might be a simple 8 pages of side-by-side columns. How we do it now, how we want to change.
Oh yeah, that's
the major product.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to envision what that might be.
Well, let's pause here and give you enough time to reflect on what we have just said and change whatever we want to change now. Is it making sense? Should we go like this? Should we do it differently? Should we form into little groups maybe now so that you can discuss what we have just talked about and see whether this approach makes sense or whether you want to change some things and do some things differently? And we would use this small group approach so that people can have more time to discuss as well. Why don't we do that for a little bit? Why don't we agree that we use an artificial divide? We should get a mixture of people from GOPP. Well, we should get a mixture of people from GOPP and the few NGOs we have, and then talk it through whether this approach makes sense. And whether we want to change anything for 10, 15 minutes before we proceed. What are some of the things we want to do? Any other general suggestions before we do that? Did you? Yeah? Were you going to suggest something? Yeah? Oh, so you want a mic? No. Oh, you don't move on. It's okay. John says he doesn't know anybody here. He wants to know all of you. So.
Would it be possible for people to introduce themselves and say briefly who you are and do you work for GOPP? Do you work for NGO? Which NGO?
Yeah, you can do that.
Does everybody else know each other? Only I do not.
It won't take long.
Just a quick round.
Let's do that.
Could we do a quick one?
Yeah. Let's start from here, and people will just say briefly their names, I guess, and what institution, or any other things they want to do. So we'll start with Miss Hannah, and then we'll go up and down like that.
You know me, I'm Hannah Egoli, Cairo University. I'm an astrologist. And
on assisting marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm John
That's a
Cressman.
big
I'm
problem.
from Chicago in the United States. I'm a recovering sociologist and a community development researcher and practitioner.
You have any, would you say you have any institutional affiliation?
I'm at Northwestern University in Chicago, where I'm a professor, but most of my time is spent in communities.
Strange combination.
مهندسة علا مصطفى فكري عامل في الإقليم الثاني.
Hold on, one minute. Know what I'm hearing. All right, here we go.
مهندسة علا مصطفى فكري عامل في الإقليم الثاني. اسكندرية وبحيرة ومطروح.
Very good.
كريمة شاهد مهندسة في تخطيط عمراني. هي عمل تخطيط عمراني واشتغلت في إعداد الاستثمارات والهندسة. مهندسة رمانة بدري مركز القاهرة الكبرى في تخطيط العمراني.
Should we tell it at the back first and then we'll come to this house?
سوزان عبد الغني مبارك هيئة التخطيط العمراني مديرة إدارة الدراسات الاجتماعية والسكانية بالهيئة.
Right.
مديرة الغرفاتي بالإدارة بالتخطيط العمراني تخطيط إقليمي وإعداد بنائي. مهندسة فاطمة صادق أحمد بشتغل في التخطيط الإقليمي في الحياة. مهندسة ماجدة عبد العال بشتغل في تخطيط القرى والجيزة. مهندسة مريم عبد الملك تخطيط القرى والجيزة.
مهندسة أناء مسلمة شرح طبعا تخطيط مدن وقرى وجه اسم أسيوط الوادي الجديد أسوان سوهاج.
مهندسة أحمد الماهي تخطيط مشروعات مدن وقرى شمال إيمان عداوي from the NGOs. After Egypt Association, I'm originally trainer in community development.
تدرس المؤسسة الأمريكية للتنمية أو American Development Foundation.
دينا رؤوف خليل مهندسة برضو بتشتغل في مجال التنمية community development مع جمعية دولية اسمها معهد الشؤون الثقافية The Institute of Cultural Affairs من International NGO.
المهندس ماهر عبد السلام مهندس التخطيط المدن الشؤون التنموية والمشروع.
أحمد سماحة شغال في إدارة التخطيط الإقليمي والمقصود والسياسي. بداية عمل تخطيط العمراني.
أنا أماني نقلة، أنا مساعد مدير برامج مركز هيئة الأمم المتحدة في مجال الإدمان.
Assistant Director. Quality Assistant Director. And I'm Naresh Singh. I'm Senior Advisor on Sustainability at UNDP in New York. Okay, now that we know each other, we can then come back to this whether we want to change this, and we will need to look at how the program that we have now needs to be changed, if at all, in order to do these things, if that's what you want to do. And whether these things will, you must have had some idea in your mind of why you were coming to this week's workshop. And you need to now to check to see whether this is making sense for you, investing a large chunk of your time, a whole week of your time, to be here. We need to make sure that that is the case before we go ahead. So then, is this this worth your time? If we agree on that, then we will begin the work. And we will see, maybe we will sit and look at that program, and maybe John and myself and Hannah and any inputs you want to make as to how this program must change in order to achieve this, we would be happy to change that. Don't take the program as cast in concrete. I know most of your engineers, but we will do a little bit of flexible planning.
Change
Pardon?
what we have received.
No, we didn't change anything excepting put John Pressman's name in. It might not have been there on the version you had on Saturday. We were not sure when he will arrive and whether he will arrive. But when we saw him, we put his name in. But apart from that, you know, feel free to suggest any changes. If you don't find it time, if you just have an activity that you think should be put in, feel free to tell us. We will change the program accordingly so that it becomes your program. If when this thing fails, then you have failed, not me. What I'm trying to do is hand over my responsibility to you. So just take a look at the program. Also take a look at the manual maybe, and then we finally agree, and then we begin our hard work, or easy work. No, anyhow, it doesn't matter right now. It's just a quick informal, quick look, just 5 or 10 minutes. Take this, you know, put it on or off. One other thing I should mention to you, that is that yesterday, during the discussion, when the other managers were here, the senior managers, during the discussion, it occurred to me that, well, it's not to me, but it occurred to one of our colleagues who suggested it. I raised it and people agreed that it would be useful after we have finished our work by Thursday to get the senior managers to come back on Thursday for us to say to them what are the things that we have done and what are the things we have decided that we need to do if we are in fact going to integrate this SL approach, so that they are aware of it and they cater for that change. And they agreed unanimously that they wanted to do that, and that they will come back at 12 o'clock on Thursday as a group, and that we will all be together and we can present whatever we have learned, so that they are aware, so that when you go with certain skills, we don't want the situation, it might not be true here, but in many countries, you work with some colleagues and then they go back, and whoever is in charge, the boss, is not aware of what you have done, and therefore you have no scope to make change. We want to avoid that problem. So the senior managers will come back on Thursday. So if you take a look at that quickly, just for 5 minutes, both at the manual, at the program, see if you want any changes, and then we will proceed. John, you want to take a look yourself and see what it is, yeah? At the program especially. It's on, go ahead. You took it off. See that little switch on top? When the green light comes on, there it goes.
خطوات التحضيرية ابتدت على طول كده، بس احنا المفروض الأول نشوف أنهي منطقة هنبتدي فيها دي، في أنهي محافظة، في أنهي في الدلتا، بالصعيد، وبعدين نحدد نوعية الناس ونوعية العمل اللي هنعمله.
So what is the thing is that the manual is focused on needs and limited to PRA. That's one observation. The other observation point you're making is that we should first identify which governorates we will work in. Is that the point? Yeah. Identify early governorates in which, were you saying, I better speak into this thing. This is quite a technological challenge. But, were you saying that we should identify the governorates in which we will work or are working now?
قبل الخطوات التحضيرية لازم أحدد المنطقة أو نوعية الناس اللي هتناقش معاهم أو هنعمل معاهم، نناقشهم في أي مشكلة معينة، سواء تخصيص أو اجتماعي أو الاحتياجات بتاعتهم، قبل كل الخطوات دي.
Okay, I understand that.
Another question.
Yeah, another question.
I think at first we must concentrate on which level we will go to plan, regional or government or district, and which data we need for each level.
Okay. So the other point is identify
Because I think it will differ from
levels.
From level to level.
And by levels you're talking about whether it's governorate level, community level.
Regional level, governorate level, district level, and so on.
Regional, governorate. What are the other subdivisions? Below governor? This is district.
Long area.
District, after district, community or? What do you have? No, but I read the local government planning structure, and in cities you have different structure, and in rural areas. Villages. Slum areas. Right. And so on. Yeah.
افتكر في برضه هنا مركز تحت اللي هو كاونتي تحت الجفرمنت
Center?
مركز or county.
Police center.
No.
No. What is its English name?
County.
County.
Sometimes we call it market here and it's
You don't have to get it all right. But it's just to illustrate her point. You don't have to, we have a book which I didn't bring on local government. It has all the right names.
I think what you mean here, according to the level of planning we are doing, it requires different participation.
Yeah.
So the participation will be different from
the people who participate will be different.
Will be different.
But the process of participation, we will discuss broadly the technique.
even the technique.
Well, we will go through all of the techniques that are applicable at all the different levels, and then we can talk about which are more applicable or useful at the different levels. Yeah. Because for this year, 1999, you might be working at regional level, but your responsibility might change in the year 2000. So we want you to be familiar with the broad set of tools, and as a group, we can also identify which participatory strategies and tools work better at regional level, or governorate level, or slum areas, and so on. Good point. Yeah.
I just have a question about the manual, another question. What I read here is a theoretical framework, so I assume by the end of the workshop there will be some practical tools. I mean, how to conduct an interview, how to conduct a survey. That's what I assume to be a training manual, not just
Manual is theoretical.
how the people are going to use every part of it.
Right. As I say, if that is true, then yes, we would be able to move to where the actual tools are. I was hoping that Emmanuel would have had some tools in it, but if it doesn't, then we will have to.
It mentions some of the sizes.
But it doesn't tell you how.
It doesn't have.
All right. Amani, you did get a copy of the SL primer. It's been photocopied. You know it'll be ready this morning. Can you check? Yeah, I was making it for reference, but it can be available. You can get your own copy as well. But I wanted one for reference to the whole group. We have already put together. Also, Amani, that purple book, there's a purple book which I am one of the authors. It's written by Singh and Rennie.
What's the other one?
No, that one is written by Chambers. This one is Singh and Rennie, and it's Participatory Research for Sustainable Livelihoods. Now, I happen to be working in Amin's office, and I saw he had a copy of his. So if you can't find a copy anywhere else, one is on the shelf, just facing where Amin sits. When he looks at the shelf, he will see it. We will just borrow it. Ask him to borrow it, and we will return it to him, and I can send him another copy. So we will bring the resource materials in. Many of the tools, as you say, are in fact, those participatory tools are largely drawn from the PRA bunch. Of the, about 25 techniques. There are about 25 techniques or so in the PRA toolkit, and we will probably in this course identify the sources and identify the tools which you can pick up. They are available in the bank participatory toolkit. In the most important source is the PLA notes put out by IIDD. That's the most authentic source of these tools. But as I said, everybody develops their own manuals, so there must be at least 5,000 PRA manuals worldwide. Well, this is the ultimate body. The people are the ultimate authority and what goes to people. It's not one of the objectives of the course, but we are redefining the objectives right now. We'll redefine the time, we distribute the time. Because ultimately, if they don't get what they think they want to work with and use, we won't get anywhere. No, I don't think it will take too much time. We'll see how it goes. We can't do we won't be able to do a PRA training or a participatory training in a classroom, as you know. You can't do that. It's not possible to do PRA work. You might do a little mimic or a little mock exercise, but that wouldn't take us very far. We can only do a PR in the field. And we would identify within Egypt people who are good at participatory work. And as we know, participation means different things to different people. But that can become one of our follow-through exercises. And that is part of the goal of this week, to identify the follow-through things. So we might identify that we need to do a broad range of participatory training as they follow through. And then we will do that in the field, not in the classroom. Maybe we should write that down right away. You will be able to capture all that we have discussed this morning so far, so we can get that written up by 12 o'clock. It might be faster to you if we make notes before. Oh yes, every session has to be reported on. That's what I'm saying. At the morning of every day, we write up all that we talked about and agreed on and produce. And then in the afternoon we do the same. So that, you know, you can use the flip chart. Yeah, but it still has to be written up. So in discussion, all the suggestions we are getting, the main points, we should capture. And if you need any help, we should get them. No, it's not really minutes. You will have to take the lead. But if you need any support, work it out with the lady or whoever is supporting you. But if you could help in taking the lead to make sure we document every session. Okay, we have a few comments from the group now. The comments are that the manual is focused on needs and limited to PRA tools. It doesn't take a strong assets approach. That was one observation made. The one colleague said that we should identify early in this week's work which governorate or region, as discussed, we will work in, and focus some attention on these regions so that we can have very practical training, which we will try to do. And then, well, this leads to this, right? Right.
I want to talk about the بالنسبة للنقطة بتاعت إدارة محل المنازعات اللي هي الخطوات التحضيرية. إدارة محل المنازعات بين الناس إزاي وأنا لسه ما اتعرفتش على المجتمع المحلي ولا بنيت له قناعات من منشورات تحديدية. يعني إزاي أنا بكون فريق عمل وأجمع بيانات وترتيبات العمل وبعدين أعمل إدارة محل المنازعات مين؟ المنازعات مين؟ المجتمع أنا لسه ما اتعرفتش عليه. ولا بنات ثقة وياه عشان يقدر ياخد بكلام ويبقى في تجاوب معاه. أنا مش عارفة، أنا شايفة إن هي ممكن نقطة بتبقى في الخطوات التنفيذية بعد كمان عدة لقاءات. مش عارفة.
بس ممكن أنا لو اكتشفت إن المجتمع ده ملخبط قوي ومش هقدر أحل المنازعات دي وهتحصل مشكلة.
هتحليها إزاي وحضرتك مش عارفة طبيعتهم لسه ولا مين مدخل.
Let me respond to that.
Okay.
Let me respond to that. Right. The answer to that is that we do not want to settle any dispute in this room. That occurs in the field. What we want to talk about is certain tools and strategies that are available that you can use depending on the problems you face in the field. And there are a whole bunch of conflict resolution tools and strategies that we will discuss. Which of these tools you actually need when you work in the field will be your choice. In other words, it's like a carpenter that's going to build a house and has a whole bunch of tools. If he wants to nail a board on the wall, he uses a hammer and a nail. If he wants to cut the wood, he uses a saw, and so on. So we can discuss what are those tools, and if necessary, in order to give you confidence in how you use those tools, we will identify that as one of the follow-up actions that we need to do after the week if we cannot do it in the room. But it is not at all, we are not suggesting that we can here resolve any problem that we have not faced in the field. Okay? So we need to be clear about that. But we need to recognize that there are tools for doing this. Where are the tools? Where you can find them? And if there is need for help in using them, we identify that as an activity to be done later on. Please, go ahead.
بس افتكر برضو حته حل الصراعات ساعات كتيره ممكن انها تاخد سنين على بال ما ان انا ابتدي ان انا احل، لكن يمكن من المهم ان انا ابقى ادرك لما بخش المجتمع مين ضد مين اللي هيعارض اي حد ومين اللي هيمشي مع اي حد، عشان ابقى عارف ايه الداينامكس اللي هتمشي في المجموعه. لكن جايز ما بقاش استخدم اساليب حل الصراعات لو هي حاجه صعبه، يعني لو حاجه هتاخد سنين عشان بيحصل لو هتاخد سنين عشان.
Right, so all we want to do in this week is not to go into any detail into any one of these areas, but we want to at least be able to identify, if only we identify that the capacity needs to be built for planners to be able to resolve conflicts and disputes, or put it another way, that we need to build the capacity and skills of physical planners for negotiation, put it broadly. If we identify that, we can then see how far we can get there in this week, and where we can't do, we identify that for a follow-through activity. But it will not be otherwise we'll have to have a month, at least a 1-month course on conflict resolution and negotiation and so on. But we can't do any of these in that detail. You know, there's a whole range of things, from the Harvard getting to yes, to at least, you know, there must be at least another 10,000 books written on negotiation, conflict resolution. You can't go through all of those. Yes, ma'am.
لا انا بس كنت عايزه اوضح حاجه، ان الخطوات التحضيريه دي مجرد ترتيبات جزء منها بعمله في الفيل او مش جزء، يعني تربحها بتتعمل في الفيل. الخطوات التنفيذيه هي دي الامبلمنتيشن او ان انا ببدا بقى انفذ او اطبق SL1. فلازم اكون ممهده الجو العام.
يعني فاهمين حضرتك الدرس عرفتي ازاي عملتي جوه في الصفحه تقولي ايه حضرتك الصفحه 4 وانت بدات تتكلمي عن النقطه دي، بتقولي يفضل قبل الدخول في القرارات التنفيذيه ان تدار وتحل اي منازعات موجوده داخل المجتمع، سواء كانت بين السكان او بعضهم البعض او بين السكان وغيرهم من الاطراف. يعني بالتالي حضرتك عشان تتعرفي على حاجه زي كده محتاجه ان انت تنزلي
وانا
المجتمع ده تبني الثقه معاهم. ما اظنش لو انت ما بنيتيش ثقه وخدت وقتها، ما اظنش ان دي مرحله تحضيريه تقدري تعمليها في
بس في فرق ان انا بعمل الثقه في الخطوات التحضيريه، وفي فرق بين الثقه اللي بعملها في الخطوات التنفيذيه. التنفيذيه من اول ما هتبدا ده اللي هو SL1، خلاص انا استقريت على الكوميونتي دي وبشتغل فيها. انما انا في الخطوات التنفيذيه التحضيريه ممكن اكتشف ان الكوميونتي دي ما تنفعش.
طب ايه اللي بتعرفي حضرتك اللي اديني مثال؟
معرفتك ما هل دي مبيعات ولا لا؟ مين الاطراف اللي لا يمكن يتعاونوا ومين الاطراف اللي ممكن يتعاونوا؟ بس معرفتك لكن مش هتحل
يبقى انا برضه مش وظيفتي انزل احل، انا مش وظيفتي احلهم مشاكلهم، انا وظيفتي بس اعمل سكاننج ابقى عارفه بالظبط كل زي ما هو بيقول مين الاطراف اللي هتتعاون مع بعض ومين هتعمل مشاكل.
بقى اداره اصل عمليه
خلاص نغير
معناها حاجه يعني هي التعارف بقى.
في نقطة كمان مهمة، احنا بنعمل المخططات وما بننفذهاش. التنفيذ responsibility of the local it's not our responsibility, but it is very important to let the people participate in our plan, just to make sure that what we are going to plan will be implemented. But we are not going to face this problem. It's important to know the problem, but we are not going to face it.
That is a fundamental point, that we make the plans but we don't implement them. And we have to be very careful here in the distinction between incorporating the SL in the planning process and incorporating the SL in implementing the plan. That is a fundamental difference that we will have to see what it means, because you make plans and then you get people
We implement what we have
to
planned.
implement what you have planned, and they are not here.
Yes.
Those implementers.
Yes. But it is very important to know the problem, to make sure that what we are going to implement will be
Implementable.
what we are going to plan will be implemented.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
And at least will be accessible from the people who are planning for it.
And if they are not
Will be
involved
accepted.
in designing the plan, they will not accept it, would they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So please, go ahead. It was on?
Well, the UPT, by the law of physical planning,
Before she says it in English, and then
by the law of physical planning, UPT is responsible for the plan, not to implement them, but to review and make sure that they are implemented.
yeah. I understood that from yesterday's discussion. So we should probably put that down. That GOPP planners, what you do is you design the plan. That's one step. Then you review the plan.
Yes.
Somebody implements it, but you do so implementation.
By local authority.
Implementation by local authorities. Local authorities means local government, local councils, or civil societies involved? No, only government.
Local government.
Implementation by local authorities. That's not your task. But you do a review. And after that step, that's it. It's design and review, that's what you do.
Make sure that they are implemented.
Design, review, ensure implementation. How do you do that? How? You monitor. Ensuring implementation. So those three things you do, that's it.
But some of these local authorities participate with us in the
design.
Yeah.
That's important, good. So they, local authorities, design plan with local authorities. Do you, anybody else, and we will talk through this in detail when we discuss the participation. Who else is involved in the design?
By law, local authorities are responsible for design, but they are not able. If you remember,
The law requires the local authority to
They
design.
have not staff to do that. So they may ask
GOPP.
GOPP to do it or any consultant.
Right,
Yes.
right.
But we have to review.
And so local authority is the real people who have responsibility by law.
Design.
Right. You help them or consultants,
Exactly. Or review if the work is already done.
but typically in the plans that you have been involved in, and anybody can respond, you have worked with the local authority, obviously, because they are the ones responsible. Did you also work with any other people like NGOs or the local community?
Sometimes
Consultants.
And sometimes we work with the people. So if we are going to do, for instance, plan to upgrade a slum area.
Right. Okay. So then we will talk a little bit about the stakeholders. In the different levels, who are the different stakeholders, like we said earlier, and what are the different strategies to get people involved? We'll talk about that. Well, Hannah, you wanted to talk something about, or you talked about it already?
I don't understand what's the problem of
Can you explain the observation you made when Hannah was out of the room?
in this manual هذا معاك بتتكلمي عربي
في الكتاب كله بيتكلم عن ازاي بحلل المجتمع بنفس الطريقه التقليديه بتاعه PRA. هو نفس كأنه بقى مانيوال للPRA، وبيتكلم في الاخر عن انه ازاي بعد ما انا حللت كل ده بقعد علشان احدد مشكلات المجتمع. فالفوكس او الهدف من كل اللي بيتعمل ان انا بحدد مشكلات المجتمع اكتر ما انا حاطه فوكس على الاسس بتاعت المجتمع اللي انا هبني عليها. فبعد ما اتعملت كل الاناليسيس بيتقال ان احنا هنقعد علشان نحلل المشكلات ونشوف اسبابها وايه انسب الحلول ليها.
هو انسب الحلول من واقع SLA، يعني انهي انتي بوينت
انا كنت فاهمه من الانترودكشن امبارح انه الاسال ايه، انا ما بدورش على المشكله وبدور على انسب الحلول للمشكله من خلال الاسيت، لكن انا بدور على الاسيتس وبحط فيجن للمجتمع وبشوف ازاي استغل الاسيتس دي علشان احقق الفيجن دي، لكن مش ان انا عندي بروبلم وبشوف استغل الاسيتس في حل البروبلم. انا عندي فيجن ما هواش بروبلم وعندي اسيتس بستغلها عشان احقق الفيجن which is totally different. ده حسب اللي انا فهمته امبارح عن الاسئله ايه.
Maybe I can
not up to you.
yeah, maybe I can help there. And Hannah, see if this is accurate what I say. Hannah followed, I know when she was designing this, she followed to some extent a manual that the Malawians have developed. Is that true? This one, right. This is the Malawian document. This document was one of the earliest ones. It represents a great battle to make the mental shift from the needs approach to the assets approach. And I think I will concede that they lost the battle. They lost the battle because of two main reasons. One was the mental mindset that has to be changed, but also we ourselves did not, as forcefully as we should have done, maybe in retrospect, encourage them to use the assets approach. Like all of this work, I made the tools available. I said, here were the tools on the assets approach. This was the book on building communities from the inside out. These were appreciative inquiry tools we've had. This is the PRA tool. Please use these, and you come up with what you think will work. And they did the needs analysis. I'll tell you even more than that. When we were like 9 months down, I should have been there, like, living there, and then it would have been much better. But I had to be living in New York. And this was work being done in Malawi. The bureau director from UNDP, who is about one of the most senior officials we have, to whom the resident representatives report, she said, look, what you have been telling me makes so much sense. I want to go and see in the field whether the country offices are doing this. And I said, wonderful. This was the very first time in the history of UNDP that a bureau director, who's typically at the political level, wanted to be present in a technical workshop reviewing what we had achieved in our approach. And right through the workshop, she was saying, but you were telling me something else. All I'm hearing is need. So yes, that we use there probably has led us straight to this. So, and we need to move away from that. We move as far as we can. So if indeed, and I have to rely on the discussion I'm hearing, if indeed the manual is largely focused, which I have not read, so I do not know. So the two of you can debate and see what is in there. If it is needs-oriented, it has to be changed.
It's not needs, it's entry points.
But are the entry points needs or assets? That's the key. And what she is saying is that the entry points she reads are needs.
As she said, we want now to use the assets as an entry point to solve the problem.
Right. The first point, the first step is to focus on assets. But we do look at problems later on. Appreciative inquiry as well as the assets approach.
What really bothered me is that the appreciative inquiry, or sorry, the SLA, is that first I analyze the problem and I use assets to solve the problem, or I have a vision which is not a problem and I use assets to realize the vision.
The latter.
We cannot have an absolute vision.
No, that's true. We don't get in, but I take your point. It is true that what we are trying to do is to start with the assets and get a vision. And problems comes after, which we must resolve, not first. That is fundamental to the SL approach, that we must not start with the problem analysis. That's the shift we are making. And if the manual has the problems first, then we use the assets, then we are reversing the order in which we should work. And we'll check that.
What is in the manual is that there is the asset, and the assets are used as an entry point to solve the problem.
But that's okay.
Not an entry point to realize the vision.
Okay. All right, fine. That's yes. Yeah. Right,
The
okay.
problem may be constrained to achieve this.
All right, and we will resolve that, and that's one of the areas which we need to address. And you have also raised the area, that paragraph that speaks of the conflict resolution. we need again to address that and rephrase it and revise it. And that's the whole point of the exercise. It's not a criticism of the work, but it's merely to see what we have there, what is it we want to do, how to change what. So make sure we are doing that. Excellent. Okay. We've had now, I think, a reasonable airing of the issues you want to put to add to what we have outlined. And I think we are ready to proceed into it. If we have agreed, why don't we take a break before the cakes and the wonderful sweets and so on get cold and the coffee gets hot, and then we'll proceed into the second session. Is that all right now? So should we go into break? But what it will be important for you guys to make sure that at every break point that we have captured in essence the points of the previous session. Constantly, otherwise you will get difficulty to try to do it one time. Thanks. Let's go. Let's take our 10-15 minutes stretch, and then we'll get back to the session.
We do now at GOPP. We not all of GOPP, but we ourselves. What do we do? What is the scope of our task? What kinds of planning do we do? The various kinds of planning. What are the objectives of the kind of work that we've been engaged in? What's the scale? What level? Are we regional? Very local? And what kinds of tools and strategies do we most often use? And I think we want to get to some level of detail here. So we've got a set of lists that we really can begin as a baseline to know what we've got in the room. Does that make sense? Is the task fairly clear? I think then what we'd like to do is to have two groups. I don't know how to divide this necessarily. Make sure that the one over here and 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Let's do that. All right. Let's start numbering here. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1. Okay, group 1. Everybody remember your number? I think the main thing we want to mix you up a little bit, I think, right? So each group make sure you have one NGO person in it, I think. And why doesn't group 1 come over to the heck switch sides here? Group 2 is over here. All right. First There's split. There's one in the
only two from the NGO.
All right, is it group 1 or group 2 over here? Group 1 is over here. Group 2 is over here. Group 2 over here. Group 1 over here. Okay. Very good. Why don't you join this group? All right. Is the task clear? I don't know how you want to work, but you may. One thing I'd like you to do is to make sure you appoint right at the beginning a reporter. Could you appoint or have somebody volunteer to be a reporter? Someone, when we come back together, to make a brief report to the whole group of what you discussed. Okay? Is there another room, Hannah? Yeah, I think this is the only room we've got, unfortunately. So you're going to want to move together in some way, or maybe over in this direction.
هم هيقولوا شغل كتير قوي فاحنا مش
احنا ما نحرقش عشان هم يقولوا هم حرقوا. احنا قلنا ان احنا هنستعمل المناقشه بعده نقط اللي هو نوع التخطيط، مستوى التخطيط، الاهداف ازاي نحددها. تمام؟ عايز اشرحه شويه. في البدايه احنا حددنا عدد نقط للنقاش اللي هو نوع التخطيط، مستوى التخطيط، الاهداف، الادوات، وقدرنا نحصر اللي هي المخططات او اللي هي الدور اللي بتقوم بيه الهيئه في اللي هو نوع المخططات اللي قدامنا. اولا اعداد اللي هو المخطط الاستراتيجي، وده بيكون على المستوى القومي زي ما تم اعداد اللي هو الدراسات بتاع خريطه مصر، او على المستوى الاقليمي زي اللي هي الدراسات اللي خاصه بالمخطط التنميه مثلا لاقليم اسيوط، مخطط التنميه للساحل الشمالي الغربي. في اللي هو كمان اللي هو المخطط الاقليمي، ده بيكون على مستوى الاقليم او على مستوى المحافظه. بعد كده هنبدا من هنا من اول اللي هو المخطط العام او المخطط الهيكلي او العام او التفصيلي. ده بيتم لا اما لمدن جديده او مدن تكون قائمه بالفعل وبيتم اعداد المخططات ليها. المخطط الهيكلي بيكون رسم خطوط عريضه بنقول للمدن او للقرى، يعني ممكن ده يتم لمدن او لقرى. في اللي هو المخطط العام وده بيكون برضه للمدن او القرى، وزي ما اتفقنا من الاول ده لا اما لمدن او قرى قائمه او جديده. يعني ده الثلاث عمليات سواء اللي هو المخطط الهيكلي او العام او التفصيلي بيكون لا اما مدن جديده او مدن قائمه. في المخطط التفصيلي او بنسميه مخططات فوريه، وده ممكن يكون لحي سكني، لمجاوره، لمنطقه، يتم اعداد المخططات التفصيليه ليها او المخططات الفوريه. والمرحله دي ممكن تبدا بعد تحديد المخطط الهيكلي، يعني بمعنى المخطط الهيكلي انا بحط فيه اللي هي السياسات العريضه او بقرب منه اللي انا اتعرف على المدينه وعلى المشاكل اللي فيها وعلى الامكانات وعلى المحددات. ممكن منها ابص الاقي ان في منطقه فيها مشكله والمنطقه دي بتتمتع ببعض الامكانيات اللي انا ممكن استغلها لحل المشكله، بدل ما استنى لمرحله المخطط العام اللي ممكن تاخد وقت وممكن الوقت ده ياثر سلبا على المنطقه دي. فممكن ان انا احددها واقول ان دي اكشن اريا انا ممكن ابدا بيها وابدا اعمل لها دراسه تفصيليه في الوقت نفسه اللي انا بشتغل فيه بالتوازي مع المخطط العام للمدينه. دوت النوع اللي هو التخطيط. طب بنقول الاهداف بوجه عام بالنسبه اللي هي التنميه العمرانيه. طبعا كنا ان احنا معنيين بالتنميه العمرانيه يبقى الهدف بتاعنا التنميه العمرانيه، ودوت للمساهمه في رفع مستوى المعيشه، لان الهدف العام لاي دراسه بتتم سواء اللي هي التنميه الاقتصاديه او الاجتماعيه او العمرانيه، الهدف منها رفع مستوى معيشه الفرد. فبصوره عامه انا الهدف اللي هو التنميه العمرانيه الهدف المساهمه في رفع مستوى المعيشه، ده شيء طبيعي. من ضمن برضه الاهداف بتاعتي في التنميه العمرانيه اللي هو اعاده توزيع السكان، بدليل ان احنا كلنا عدد سكان مصر كلهم موجودين في الوادي على مساحه ارض صغيره، ونبدا نقول ان من ضمن مشاكلنا اللي هو التكدس السكاني وازاي نخرج من الوادي الضيق ده للصحراء بهدف اعاده توزيع السكان. النقطه اللي بعد كده طبعا اللي هو توفير الخدمات والمرافق والارتقاء ببعض المناطق. الهدف من ضمن اهدافنا الاساسيه او هدف قومي لينا عامه الحفاظ على الاراضي الزراعيه، عشان كده بنمنع اي امتدادات عمرانيه بتتم على الاراضي الزراعيه، وبنحاول نحل المشكله ان احنا نوصل للصح، لان شيء طبيعي ان الناس هتزيد بالوقت، بس ده هيسبب تعدي على الاراضي الزراعيه. فازاي ان انا اعمل مخططات واخرج للصحراء بدل حفاظا على الارض الزراعيه كهدف قومي لينا كلنا. النقطة اللي بعد كده برضه من خلال المخططات بتاعتي أكيد اللي أنا بخلق فرص عمل اللي هو سواء اللي هو المجتمع الجديد دايما بشوف إيه الأساس الاقتصادي أو حتى لقاء بعمل له عملية تنمية وأنا بعمل التنمية العمرانية واخدة في الاعتبار برضه إن أنا زي أوفر فرص عمل والعملية قلنا متكاملة. لو أنا كنت معنية بالتنمية العمرانية لكن ده ليس اتصال مباشر وتأثير مباشر مع اللي هو التنمية الاجتماعية والتنمية الاقتصادية، يبقى برضه في هدف أساسي اللي أنا بوفر فرص عمل سواء في مجتمع جديد او حتى في مجتمع قائم. وبرضه توطين الانشطه الاقتصاديه، يعني برضه لو في مجتمعات جديده دايما بشوف ايه الاساس الاقتصادي بتاعي اللي انا ممكن وايه امكانيات المنطقه المتاحه والموارد المتاحه وازاي اقدر فعلا ايه الاساس الاقتصادي اللي هيبقى المدينه وازاي اوفر برضه فرص عمل. يبقى متفقين ان هي ديت الاهداف الايه الخاصه بيها. الادوات اللي انا بستخدمها طبعا دايما بشوف اولا يكون عندي خرائط مساحيه، خرائط تصوير جوي اعتمد عليها ان انا اتعرف فيها على اللي هو المنطقه اللي انا بخططها. يكون بجمع البيانات وجمع البيانات طبعا ليه طرق كتيرة، سواء برفع العمراني اللي احنا بننزل مجموعات وتبدأ تعمل عملية مسح عمراني المنطقة اللي انا هيتم اعداد المخطط ليها، او عن طريق استمارات الاستبيان برضو اللي انا بسجلها فيها وبالمشاهدة والملاحظة وده شيء طبيعي، او عن طريق ممكن حضراتكم ممكن برضو من الجهات المعنية، ما انا ليا صلة بكل الجهات المعنية، سواء الجهات الخاصة بالتنمية الزراعية، الجهات الخاصة بالصناعة، اي جهات بقدر برضو اجمع منها بعض البيانات بصورة رسمية من الجهات المعنية. برضو من ضمن الادوات بتاعتي اللي هي التكنولوجيا الحديثة، سواء استخدام اللي هو الكمبيوتر اللي هو الهاردوير، او اللي هي البرامج بتاعت السوفت وير، سواء اللي هو GIS او ما يمثل ذلك من برامج بتساعدني على ان انا استخدمها كادوات ليا في اللي هو اعداد المخططات. من ضمن برضه الادوات التدريب، سواء للعاملين في الهيئه اللي انا دايما برفع كفاءتهم لاي حضور ندوات، لحضور دورات تدريبيه، او سواء للمحليات وانا اقدر بقى اقوم بيه. فانا لما ادرب الناس اللي هم العاملين في الهيئه بيبقى عندهم برضه المقدره ان هم يدربوا المحليات، عشان المحليات بتسالني برضه تساعدني كادوات اللي انا اقدر اعد المخططات اللي هي بتقوم بيها الهيئه. برضه من ضمن الادوات عشان اوصل للي هي التنميه العمرانيه لازم اعمل اللي هي الدراسات التخصصيه، يبقى لازم اعمل دراسات بيئيه وطبيعيه، في دراسات سكانيه، في دراسات اقتصاديه، في دراسات اجتماعيه، في دراسات خاصه بالبنيه الاساسيه، سواء طرق، سواء اتصالات، سواء كهرباء، كل دوت ليه مردود عندي، فلازم اللي انا بنقوم بيه قبل ما اوصل وبيشتغل بالتوازي مع اللي هي التنميه العمرانيه او المخططات بتاعتي. بالاضافه لكده برضه في دراسات مثلا الاشياء السكانيه بتبقى خاصه بقراءه التربه، يعني لو في مثلا تنميه اي مدينه جديده انا لازم اعمل جلسات في المدينه ديت ولازم اعرف طبيعه التربه وهل هي مناسبه ولا لا. فشيء طبيعي في اي مجتمع جديد وانا بختار الموقع لازم اعرف ايه الدراسات الجيوتقنيه اللي بتتعمل بيه، واعرف مدى مناسبه الموقع ده للتعمير من عدمه من الاول، يعني مش بدايه نقطه. ما هو كل ده بيساعدنا، ممكن نسيب خبراء او جهات معنيه دايما بنكون على اتصال بيها،
او بحوث ودراسات برضه،
او بحوث ودراسات، او مثلا اي ما في جهات معنيه كتيره مثلا زي اللي هي المساحه الجيولوجيه زي كده، ممكن دايما
نبقى نزود كرم يعني للاطراف
المتعاونه مع الهيئه. احنا لو قدمناهم هنبص نلاقيهم فعلا الاطراف المتعاونه مع الهيئه زي ما بنقول المحليات، الجهات المعنيه، كل الوزارات، اي حته اقدر اجمع بيها بيان وليها علاقه بشغلي طبعا بعمل اتصال بيها سواء رسميه او غير رسميه.
قدر التعاون هنا بيختلف، يعني المفروض ان انا بتعاون مع كل الاطراف دي، لكن طبعا بيتعاونوا معايا بنسبه، يعني موجود في الاجتماعات الرسميه شيء طبعا، وبيحصل على الطبيعه شيء ثاني، يعني ساعات بنلاقي صعوبه في جمع البيانات.
يعني هي برضه لو نعمل لها خانه يبقى
يعني انت عايزين نبقى نعمل خانه للاطراف اللي بيبقى فيه تعاون ما بين الهيئه وما بيننا. بنقول
بشكل عام حتى واحد بعد كده يبقى مفهوم ان في كل مرحله بتشترك طرف
يبقى بنقول بخلاف اللي هو المخططات اللي بتكون الهيئه باعدادها هي ليها دور في بعض الدراسات الثانيه، زي ايه مثلا؟ في دراسات اختيار مواقع التجمعات العمرانيه الجديده، يعني بفرض مثلا ان انا دلوقتي هعمل مدينه سوشكا او مدينه جديده ناجي حمادي وخلاف، مش بس بقوم بالدراسات العمرانيه ليها، لا بيسبقها مرحله اختيار اللي هي الموقع، ودي يمكن بيدخل فيها جزء كبير من اللي هي مثلا الدراسات اللي هي جيوتقنيه، الدراسات الاقتصاديه ومدى توافر اللي هي الموارد هنا في المنطقه دي، لان فيها موارد ولا مش في المنطقه دي. فيبقى في من ضمن اللي هو ادوار الهيئه اختيار مواقع التجمعات العمرانيه الجديده. من ضمن الادوار برضو ابداء الراي في المواقع المقترحه لاقامه المشروعات المختلفه، بمعنى ان كتير من اللي هو الجهات زي مثلا المحافظات بيبعتوا لنا مواقع محدده مختاره من قبلهم وبيطلبوا فيها راينا لاقامه مشروع معين بعينه، بمعنى منطقه مثلا عايزين يكونوا فيها نشاط صناعي زي مثلا مصنع اسمنت، زي مثلا محطة لأي حاجة، فبيبعتوا غاز خطوط غاز طبيعي، محطة، يعني أي مشروع من المشروعات اللي قد ترى اللي هي المحافظات أو المحليات اللي هي محتاجة رأي الهيئة التخطيطي في مدى ملائمة الموقع ده لإقامة نشاط معين، بيبعتوا لنا والهيئه بتدي فعلا راي فيه وبتقدر تفيدهم من الناحيه التخطيطيه مدى ملامس الموقع ده من الناحيه التخطيطيه لاقامه النشاط اللي هو مطلوب. الهيئه طبعا معنيه باعداد اللي هي الندوات والمؤتمرات، واعتقد يعني ان هم في زملاء اكتر مني في الموضوع دوت، والهيئه كان ليها باع كبير في اعداد العديد من اللي هي المؤتمرات والندوات. في تحديد الاحوزه العمرانيه، في اللجنه دايما مشكله بقرار وزاري، بيكون رئيس اللجنه اللي هو رئيس الهيئه العامه للتخطيط العمراني ممثل فيها اطراف كثيره اللي هو معنيه بتحديد الاحوزه العمرانيه من المدن والقرى، والمفروض ان تحديد الاحوزه العمرانيه بيتم بناء على مخطط ارشادي سريع، والهدف منها الحفاظ على الاراضي الزراعيه عشان ما تحصلش امتدادات عمرانيه لحين ما يجي اللي هو اولويه القريه دي او المدينه في اعداد المخطط ليها. بقول عشان بسرعه الحق اللي هو الاراضي الزراعيه ما يحصلش تعديات عليها، بيتم اعداد مخطط ارشادي سريع يتم على ضوء تحديد الحيز العمراني لغايه ما تاخد دورها في اعداد المخططات بتاعتها. فبرضه ده دور للهيئه. من ضمن برضه ادوار الهيئه اعداد دلائل الاعمال وقراءات الشروط المرجعيه لعديد من الحاجات زي الحيز العمراني. تم مثلا اعداد دلائل ليه عشان يتم بناء على المنهج دوت اعداد اللي هو الاحوزه العمرانيه. مثلا بدا في مانيوال بتعمل حاجات كتيره قامت بيها فعلا الهيئه. دلائل الاعمال، في دلائل الاعمال الخاصه بكل مراحل التخطيط، سواء اللي هو المخطط الهيكلي، المخطط العام، المخطط التخطيط، وسواء على مستوى المدينه او على مستوى القريه. في برضه كان قراءات شروط مرجعيه بتتعمل مثلا كان في فتره من الفترات اللي هي ايه الخطوات بتاعت اعداد بقى التفاصيل المخططات التنفيذيه لمشروعات معينه. يعني في اكتر الهيئه برضه ليها دور كبير في المعدلات والمعايير سواء للخدمات او خلاف او الاسكان او خلاف. ففي فعلا الهيئه ليها دور حتى في اعداد اللي هو دليل الاعمال او قراءات الشروط المرجعيه. وهنا برضه حضراتكم بتشيري طب ايه الوزارات اللي ممكن الهيئه تتعاون معاها؟ طبعا بخلاف المحليات لان هو دول اصحاب الشغل اصلا والمفروض اللي انا بتعاون معاهم لصالحهم هم. في مثلا وزاره اللي هي الزراعه واستصلاح الاراضي، وزاره الصناعه، وزاره السياحه، الاستشعار عن بعد اللي هي الهيئه المصريه للمساحه الجيولوجيه، وزاره التخطيط، وزاره الاقتصاد، وزاره الدفاع طبعا بتبقى اساسيه لان ده امن دوله. يمكن من ضمن لازم الوزارات الاول لازم ناخد الموافقات على اي يعني زي ما بنقول لو انا كنت بختار موقع معين بيكون دوري اخد كمان الموافقات. يعني انا بختاره ودوري اللي انا اخد موافقات كافه الجهات المعنيه. لازم الدفاع، لازم الزراعه، لازم الجهات المعنيه ديت عشان يقولوا ان الموقع ده هم ما لهمش فيه اي مشروعات واللي انا ممكن صالح ان انا ابدا انمي فيه. في مثلا اللي هي وزاره الري اللي هي الاشغال العامه والموارد المائيه، في وزاره النقل، وزاره الكهرباء، الجهاز المركزي للتعبئه والاحصاء طبعا عشان اعرف الدراسات اللي هي السكانيه او اللي هي تقديرات السكان. ففي كل الجهات المعنيه اللي ليها علاقه باللي هو التخطيط لازم باخدها في الاعتبار وليا اتصال بيها وبتصل بيها ووزاره التخطيط زي ما بقول عشان ديت خطه الدوله. هي ديت اللي ممكن لو انتوا كنتوا عايزين مثلا هنا ممكن يا رب اكون بس.
So do we have any questions? Yes. Not only for her. Yes. Yes. Also for the group, right? Yeah.
لا اتفضل.
So please, somebody with the mic. So we need two. She needs one.
أنا كنت عايزة أسأل في أي مستوى هنا وأنتوا بتعملوا التخطيط بيكون في التنسيق مع الوزارات اللي هتنفذ؟ بمعنى لو أنا
اللي هتنفذ
بالظبط يعني أنت هتعملي مدينة جديدة، هل بيتحط في التخطيط مراحل التنفيذ ده بتخططوا لها؟ امتى يتعمل شوارع؟ امتى أدخل التليفونات؟ لأنه اللي احنا بنشوفه بعينينا كده انه ساعات بعد ما بتتعمل المدينه وبتثبت شوارعها وبعد شويه يحفروا عشان الناس يحطوا كابلات تليفونات. هذا مسؤوليتكم هنا في التخطيط ولا ليه بيحصل كده؟
هجاوبها الاول. قبل ما بنعمل اي مخططات طبعا بنروح نشوف اولويات التخطيط لوزارات ثانيه. يعني احنا رحنا مثلا نروح وزاره مش وزاره اللي هي الهيئه العامه الصرف الصحي والميه والاسماعيليه
اللي هي القوميه
القوميه اللي فيها الشرب والصرف الصحي بتعمل خطه لادخال شبكات مثلا صرف صحي في مدينه معينه، فعندهم خطه وعندهم اولويات. احنا بنتبع الاولويات دي، يعني بنشوف المدينه اللي هتحط لها صرف صحي بنبتدي نحطها برضه من ضمن اولوياتنا التخطيطيه على اساس ما يحصلش اللي بتقولي عليه ده، فده نوع من التعاون. نفس الطريقه بالنسبه لوزارات اخرى، بس طبعا الحاجات الفيزيكال اللي هي فيها انفستمنت عاليه زي الصرف الصحي دي، فمهم جدا ان احنا بنروح نشوف اولوياتها. في بعض اولويات ثانيه انا يمكن مش جايه على بالي دلوقتي لو حد من
يعني
الزملاء.
طب انا قصدي بس باشمهندس احمد حاجه، يعني بالذات لو حضرتك بتحددي اللي هو مثل يعني مثلا وانا بعد اي مدينه المخطط بتاعها، يعني انا هكلمك على عده مستويات بالنسبه لتحديد اللي هو مراحل التنفيذ. يعني مثلا وانا بعد اي مدينه لازم باخد في الاعتبار في النهايه ايه هي مراحل التنفيذ واولويات التنفيذ، بس ده على مستوى مناطق او احياء كبير. بقول ابدا بالحي ده وليه؟ يمكن ده لان جنب منطقه صناعيه وانا هبدا المصنع يشتغل فلازم تكون جنب المنطقه دي فابدا بيها. يمكن ده لاني هبدا بمثل منطقه مركزيه فيها جزء من قطاعات مختلفه، فيها المركز مع جزء من الاسكان مع جزء، فده على مستوى المخطط وانا بعمله. نيجي بقى مثلا الباشمهندس احمد بيتكلم عن جزئيه على المستوى مثل بتاع مثل في الحيز العمراني. احنا لما بنيجي نعمل الاحوزه العمرانيه للمدن زي ما بقول لحضرتك ده مخطط ارشادي سريع عشان منع التعديات على الاراضي الزراعيه لحين اعداد المخططات الهيكليه والعامه ليها. حضرتك في الوقت ده بيكون بنبعت صوره من الاحوزه العمرانيه دي للهيئه القوميه لمياه الشرب والصرف الصحي عشان تلتزم بإدخال اللي هو شبكات المية والصرف الصحي للمدن اللي تم إعداد أحوزة عمرانية ليها فقط. يعني حضرتك بيكون بنقول من ضمن الحاجات اللي بتشجع المحليات إن هم يعملوا حيز عمراني بسرعة ويحافظوا على الأراضي إن هم بتتمدلهم شبكات المية والصرف الصحي، وده بيبقى ليهم أولوية بيتم من خلال اتصالنا إحنا مع الهيئة القومية لمياه الشرب والصرف الصحي، فده يعتبر مكسب ليهم. اما اعدلهم حيز عمراني ابقى انا ببعت اللي هي الهيئة القومية بقول لها مدي لده.
وبرضه بالعكس يعني احنا بالعكس يعني احنا كنا برضه بنعرف ايه هم هيدخلوا الشبكات في انهي مدن، احنا بنحطها في اولويات التخطيط.
الباشمهندس احمد دي حاجه، يعني احنا حضرتك لما بنيجي نحدد اولويات المدن اللي يتم اعداد سواء الاحوزه او المخططات ليها بنقول المدن اللي تم امداد مثلا ميه والصرف الصحي ليها. يعني بنحاول ان احنا نديهم الميزه دي عشان نشجعهم ان هم يلتزموا مثلا بالحيز العمراني، وان احنا اللي تم فعلا امداد الميه والشبكات ديت ليهم احنا بنقول دولت ليهم اولويه. انت بتتكلمي حضرتك على جزئيه اللي هتتم في ان ممكن
يعني انا بشوف مدن انتوا بتقولوا بنعمل مدن جديده علشان اشيل كثافه سكانيه من على الوادي واخلق مجتمعات عمرانيه جديده. بنروح نشوف المجتمعات العمرانيه الجديده دي بنلاقي الخدمات اللي فيها مش موجوده. يبقى ازاي بتحققوا الهدف بان انا اخلق اشيل الكثافه السكانيه لو انا مش موفره لها خدمات؟ فعملت مدينه سريعه
بتتكلمي على مدينه جديده وما فيهاش توفير خدمات بالظبط. حضرتك ازاي يعني؟ طب وحاجه ثانيه برضه خلينا محددين دايما ايه دور الحاجه.
انا معايا اساله هل ده دوركم كهيئه
ولا دور لا؟ الباشمهندسه انا كانت
ده دور هيئه اسمها هيئه المجتمعات العمرانيه الجديده، يعني احنا لما بنخطط
بس انا بنفذ انا ممكن اتابع
هي اللي بتجيب
لكن انا مش مسؤول. لو حضرتك بتتكلمي بقى عن ان ممكن بعد ما بيمدوا مثلا خط تليفونات ويكسروا دي حاجات معنيه بالمحافظه.
يا ماجده هي قصدها ايه؟ هي قصدها بتحطي سكيدول تنفيذي بالتواريخ او بالحاجه المراحل التنفيذيه بتخططيها ولا لا؟
لا انا بحدد المراحل بس
عشان ده سؤال. ايوه يعني سكيدول بالزمن يعني
على الجزئيه دي بنحط مراحل تنميه المدينه الجديده، مرحله اولى مرحله ثانيه
بنحط للمدينة الجديدة مراحل للتنفيذ. بنقول مثلا هنبتدي من مركز المدينة، هناخد جزء من مركز المدينة. لو في صناعة هيبقى المصنع مثلا هيقام، يبقى هنشوف مثلا السكن اللي هيدخل فيه الاقتصاد اللي هيدخل فيه العمال. بنقسم المخطط كده، يعني بنقول مراحل اللي الحاجة الملحة المدينة فيه هتبتدي. بناخد جزء من الخدمات، جزء من السكن، جزء من الصناعة سواء صناعة يدوية أي صناعة. تنفيذ بقى المراحل دي من الناس تبعهم المدينة. يعني أنا بعمل المخطط ده وبديه لهم. هم بقى المفروض ياخدوا مني انا وينفذوا بالاولويات طبقا للي انا مخصصاه.
لان انا صاحبه خبره فبدل لهم.
لا ما
في
هي
بعض
بنعمل مخطط.
هل معناه
في الشروط دي او السكيدول ده او المراحل الزمنيه
علشان تضمن تخفيف هدفك ان هو تسجل لها سكان، لكن لو عملتها من غير ما احط لها خدمات انا ما حققتش الهدف في الاخر.
اصل حضرتك بتتكلمي بمعنى ان انا بس معنيه بالتنميه، انا جهه معنيه بالتنميه العمرانيه، وبيبقى دوري اكتر في اعداد الدراسات، وباعتبار اللي انا بقى عندي من الخبره ان انا احدد الاولويات بحددها للمحافظات وللجهات المعنيه بقى بالعمليه التنفيذيه واصحاب الشغل. عشان عارف حضرتك لما تكون مثلا انا عامله تصميم عماره، هل حضرتك يعني لو انا مهندسه انا بتابع بقى تنفيذ اللي هو العماره بالكامل سواء اللي هو صاحبها عنده امكانيات يعني انت حضرتك متخيله ان دي في استثمارات بتتوزع على مستوى المحافظات
المدين اللي بيحط لها
مرحله بعد
المجموعة الثانية.
Okay, so we have the other group now?
المجموعة الثانية.
Thank you for the 5-star group. They said most of what we have already written. That is because of course we are working in GPP together. So very few things I may ممكن حد يدخل على طول
ممكن
you can
What's the problem?
ايوه ممكن
يعمل واحد.
لا دي عشان دي اللي
لون تاني بقى
Okay, let's go.
good kinds of planning, strategic plan. We can add, we have some other kinds, for example, the heritage conservation plan in some areas, development slum areas.
تحت التفصيلية
تطوير المناطق العشوائية تطوير المناطق العشوائية اللي هي سلام ارياز الحفاظ على التراث والمناطق الأثرية الحفاظ على التراث والمناطق الأثرية.
طب هل ده بقى داخل جوه يعني يبقى استراتيجي ولا لا تحت الزيت يعني
تطوير المناطق الحفاظ على التراث والمناطق
الأثرية
ميزة ان عندهم هدف
واحد يفكر
الارتقاء ببعض المناطق upgrade.
طيب ممكن نخليها تطوير المناطق العشوائية والإرهاب بس هم مشاهد واللي تحت هم كمان يكون على التراث وما تخليها كده عين برضه.
Can we have one person please present so we can move on? Please present and then we'll have discussion after.
ممكن تقول تحديث مخطط. يعني تحديث مخطط.
ممكن يا باشمهندس تقفوا جنب العين.
ايوه جنب العين.
تحديث مخطط. Every 5 years, 10 years.
لا
maximum 5 by law. الأهداف ممكن نقول ان تحديد الاستراتيجيات العامة المتفقة مع الخطط الخمسية للدولة او strategic plan according to the 5-year plan بالتضافر. الاستراتيجيات العامة المتفقة مع خطط الدولة الخمسية. في حاجة تاني اللي هي solving existing problems، حل المشاكل في المدن القائمة. solving existing problems. احنا كنا ابتدينا باننا تشكيل الفريق العمل اللي بيضم التخصصات المختلفه.
هي ممكن تكون جوه دراسات المتخصصه.
ما هو المعنى اننا بنقول ان الفريق العمل اللي بيضم كل دول فعلا، يعني تشكيل فريق العمل اللي يبقى مسؤول عن مشروع. يكون ممكن في البدايه كبير. ممكن تشكيل مجموعات العمل some working groups between ZOPP and other private sector التصنيعات البشرية. كتبتها تشكيل مجموعة عمل، لا مش فريق عمل، ورش عمل بين الهيئة.
لا تشكيل فريق عمل دي
الأولانية. الثانية بقى ورشة عمل أو مجموعة عمل. مجموعة عمل، تشكيل مجموعة عمل من الهيئة وخارج الهيئة.
مثل المستثمرين وجمعيات
like investors private sector.
تسميرية والجمعيات الأهلية. لا دي مش مكتوبة this is very important.
Participation from the very beginning, from data collection. المشاركة المحلية. في تغيير الباب فيهم تحت الأدوات.
مش هقول لك
So we wrap up this in 5 minutes? You're nearly done? You're nearly finished? Oh, you have? Okay. That's it? Anything else?
الإعلان عن الأهداف هي ممنوع مش حاجة المشاركة وكتابة في الدوات يتم فيها الإعلان عن هو عايز يتم والندوات والإعلان
هي إعداد الندوات والمؤتمرات شاملة.
لا دي حاجة هي في الطول بس احنا بنعملها جنب دي بس هي تبع الطول احنا عاملينها تحت.
لا
لا هي الندوات الإعلان عن أهداف المشروع.
الإعلان عن
ندوات الإعلان عن المشروع زي مشروع الدراسة والندوات اللي حصلت ما كتبتش مروة ما هي في البارتيسيبيشن لحد هي إبداء الرأي قبل اعتماد المخطط المشاركة في إبداء الرأي قبل اعتماد المخطط
العرض على المحليات او يعني هي ضمن المشاركه كمرحله ما قبل الاعتماد
دي كان
مشاركه المحليات
زي كده ابداء الراي
ممكن مشاركه المحليات احنا كنا كاتبينها كده من اول جمع البيانات لابداء الراي قبل الاعتماد ده لا بس
Yeah? The last one was trading? Trading. Okay. Any questions? We've all discussed that. Okay. Let me, we need to go to lunch, so let's see how we pull this together before we go to lunch, and then we set it to link to the next session. What we have done now is we have talked about the goals, why do we plan? But what has become clear to me, but was not as clear before, was that we have two categories. We have the goals of the plan, of the planning process, and we have the goals of the implementation of the plan. And we have to be careful that we understand what are the roles of GOPP and what are the roles of the local authorities, the ministries of agriculture and so on, and that we don't try to give all the obligations to GOPP in the planning process. Okay. And we have heard that the objectives or the goals can be a whole range of things: slum area development, preservation of heritage, resettlement, sector development, urban development, achieving the 5-year plan, state 5-year plan objectives, utilization of land. All of those are goals and objectives, but we will have to, of the overall process, we'll have to see which of those are GOPP and which are those of the local authority. Having done that, we look at the tools. You have identified a whole range of tools and strategies that you use. So we have all these things now worked out from the planning time in Egypt. What we need to do next is to look at what are the goals of SLA process, what are the tools of the SLA process and the objectives, and then we will start comparing them. are the goals and the objectives similar? If they are not similar, then there's no point trying to match up the tools. So we will then start to look at the goals and objectives, at how they relate to each other. Then we will look at the tools and the strategies and how they relate to each other. And then we will look at what skills need to be built if these things can work together to enhance strategy, to build synergy. Because ultimately, we want to strengthen these things and not to just do artificial kinds of exercises. So what we will do now, the process I'm hoping that we are getting achieved is that we are going to be documenting these. Either they will be available to us on the flip chart, but better what we should do, and the two consultants should help us to do, which is what we had agreed on, is that these will be summarized. We will have them available as we proceed. So we will have now all the goals of the planning process, as the group has articulated, the tools being used, the strategies and so on, as we have agreed on. And we should also check, because that is why we have experts, that we have not left out any important things. And bring them in, discuss them with the group if necessary. So we have as comprehensive as possible a picture. Fully, it can't be perfect. Okay. We will do the same thing with the SLA, and that is where my own expertise and others will chip in to make sure we get those right. And then we will start what John was calling these two columns, the comparison and bridging. So after lunch we will start with maybe, because not all of you, not many of you were here yesterday when we did the assets approach. I thought it would be best if we began this afternoon with a presentation, a little more detail, getting on the tools and the actual instruments and so on. So the goals, the visioning, as well as the tools of the assets approach, which is a major tool of SL. And then we will talk a little bit about SL goals and objectives. Then we go into small groups where we compare the two. That's what we will do this afternoon. All right? And then we will start to see a logical progression of where we want to go. Question?
Yes, it's not a question, it's kind of feedback or comment. What I see here is a very suitable field to apply the SLA, because their entry point is a strategic plan which is based on a vision. So their entry point is not a problem, and they are making a plan to solve it. But their entry point is we have a strategy, we have a vision, and we want to apply the strategy or to reach this vision. So what I see here is a very suitable field to apply the SLA.
Well, that's interesting. We'll test that. It's good that you make that observation. We will test that to see whether the goals incorporated in the vision are similar. Okay, so that's quite a positive note. One participant has observed that you have a process which will be very easy to bring in the SL approach. So that's good to hear. Maybe we finish the workshop by Wednesday instead of Thursday. So thank you very much. Let's go for lunch. Okay. No, but provided we get our output. Provided we get our output as agreed. That's the key thing. No, I just want...
What time shall we return, Naresh?
So now it's 5 to 1, so 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock is good,
Of scheduling people that we don't like to speak right after lunch. Right. Understand why? So, thank you, Naresh.
See, he's missing the point. This is a collective decision, you see?
So I feel like we also have a custom in the United States. After lunch, we take naps sometimes, right? So I want to say, anybody here who wants to take a nap, you have permission. So, that's right. Thank you. Let me just remind myself, who was with us yesterday? Quick show of hands. About yesterday, Sunday, right? About 6 or 7. I want to do then a little bit different thing than I did yesterday. But if there's something from something that I may have said yesterday that you want to come back to, will you tell me that at some point? Remind me to go over it again. Let me try to do something a little bit different today. I want to do 3 things. The first 2 will be pretty short, and then I want to spend some time with you working on the 3rd one. The first thing I want to do is in a slightly different way, talk for a moment about the context of this asset-based community development work, where that comes from. and how it fits in the discussion we're having here about how physical planning and social planning fit together in some way. The second thing I want to do, and I hope you'll indulge me with this, I mentioned yesterday that in the United States and Canada, I have occasionally, for the last 20 years, told a story which I think is directly relevant to community building and the way we've been thinking about it in North America. And the story comes from the Sufi tradition. And so if you'll indulge me, I would like to just briefly tell you that story and see, A, whether you know it, you may know it already, or B, whether it makes any sense, or whether we have taken it and completely messed it up in the West. So the second thing I want to do is tell you a story and get your reactions to it. And then the third thing is to talk about some particular tools and methods that are related to the kind of planning objectives that we talked about this morning, particularly the SLA kinds of objectives. And that I hope we can work on together a little bit. So those three things. First, just a word about context. You remember one of the very helpful things that Naresh did yesterday, I thought, was to put this sustainable livelihood approach in a larger context, in the historical context of the interest in the last quarter century around sustainable development from 1972 and 3 on, the sort of development of the subcategory of sustainable human development. Right? So we're not talking just about structures and economies and physical development, but we're talking about human development. And then, as Naresh explained it, the development of the sustainable livelihoods approach as the methodology, as the way that the wheel